Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave.
Hello, everyone. I'm Renee the Practical Shaman, and I'm happy to be here with you today for this exciting topic.
So I think a topic that everybody can relate to. I don't think well, maybe some of you are relating to it, but I think most of us are feeling pretty overwhelmed today. And what I've been writing about on Facebook is about we actually entered a time of chaos, just really complete chaos in the United States. But my students from all over the world are emailing me and messaging me about the chaos their countries are in. So this talk isn't just about America. This talk is about the collective, the whole entire collective, whether you're writing me from Croatia or Slovakia or from Germany or from England or South America somewhere or America, everybody is sharing the same thing with me. And the part of the conversation that this show is on, because there's a lot of conversations that I'm having that are beyond the show, that we can do today, is just how overwhelmed people feel with so much coming at them all at the same time. And so many of us, without realizing it, have entered into what we call a dysregulated state where we're not actually grounded in our bodies anymore. We actually dissociated, and our minds are just crawling around the universe somewhere trying to figure out, what do I do today? How do I act today? How do I behave today? And most importantly, how do I stand up and get out of bed today? Because that feeling of overwhelm, it paralyzes us. It's like, where do you even start when you're in that place of overwhelm? And just to give one tool that I find really helpful, is I find that when I'm in that place of overwhelm, I am not looking at the perspective from an eagle's eye. And if we raise up ourselves and fly above the planet and fly above the earth, that's a real way of just giving our entire psyche, our body space, and allowing us to feel our actual spiritual power that we do have, instead of getting lost in the chaos of our ego, that has forgotten that what's happening now is out of the realm of humans and is in the realm of spirit, and that we really have to do our spiritual practices to really get out of a state of overwhelm right now.
Hmm. But that made me take a deep sigh of relief. Um, as many of you know, that I've been in a book launch phase since early fall. And right before I launched the Pilgrim's Guide a few weeks ago, I I got to a place where I crashed into the wall. And for me, that probably looks different than other people, but it was like I realized that I was just on autopilot, and autopilot pinging with all of the news that was going out in the world. And, at the time there was, the airplane crash, and there was, the chaos that's being thrown at us politically. And plus my own spin, just my own spin with it. And I had to stop. And so I took myself on a journey and gave myself a Friday night off to do that. And I saw that what was not going on in my life was that I wasn't having an embodied experience of everything. And and that could be a form of protection too. Like, there's just so much coming at us. that the first thing, especially if you've ever had severe trauma in your life, the first thing you do is you check out, you leave your body. And what I realized in the time that I spent with myself that Friday night was that if I was disembodied, I could not show up in service the way that I needed to show up for other people, and that it wouldn't matter if I connected to one person or a million people, but if I couldn't connect with one person in an embodied way, and wanting to be there in an embodied way, it was a two-part thing, that I was not really being effective.
Yeah. I way before a lot of chaos hit our planet, although we've been in chaos for a really long time now, I started taking pretty much every nervous system program that was ever created. Part of it was for me learning new tools because as a therapist, I got my therapy degree in so early in the 1970s. Therapy has changed so dramatically. It hasn't actually changed that much. It's in that the core principles of all the old time therapy that I was doing is still the same. It's just the practices have changed. And so I've been trying to update myself on how everything is changing. And there's really, really beautiful work going on. And for those of you who are feeling like you're really struggling and really need help, you can find some really good nervous system programs online that really do help people learn how to get back in their body if you're really having a problem dissociating and you really feel like you need some extra help. But what I found for myself, I've done all this work. I've done so many therapy programs for my CEUs for my license this year. It's unbelievable on trauma and stress and all of that. And for me, everything boiled down to as simple as it gets. And this is where I am right now in dealing with the chaos and the overwhelm. Is the only thing I do when my mind starts racing or when I feel an anxiety or an agitation coming up. Both my husband and I move into places of agitation where there's energies out there and we're feeling them and our body is starting to really react, but we don't know what to do. And of course, walking is always the best thing for that. But the one practice that I'm just focusing on, and I'm not shifting from this one practice, is every time my mind goes somewhere, every time I feel a pain in my body, I ask, what is my heart trying to say to me right now? So I'm only listening to my heart, and I am listening to my body, but more about foods and herbs that I should be taking to bolster my own immunity and my own strength right now, because I got thrown off my path by listening to experts instead of listening to my own body. So all of this chaos and all of this overwhelm that is being experienced on the planet, how I'm working with it is just, what does my own body need right now? And what is my heart trying to say to me? Just to me, not about the world, but what's happening with me. And so I'm working with that, and I'm working with the feelings that are coming up, and I'm doing my medicine for the earth work and going inside and saying, this is definitely something I'm feeling, a real hurt that I'm feeling right now. And it's from my past, and that road actually doesn't exist anymore, so I can't go back there anymore. And so the only thing I can do is say I'm sorry to my heart and feed it with love and breathe and do my exercises and walk. And I found that just by bringing everything back to myself right now, and it's not a selfish act, this is not a selfish act. This is how I regain my strength and my resilience so that I can get back out there and be in service again.
Mm. As you're talking, and you've been talking about this heart thing for a minute, because I've heard it a couple times, but it finally clicked in with me of something you just said about how you shifted your focus in the last couple of months from what everyone else was telling you, and what you're listening to your own heart, because we've been sitting here together for what, 7 years, and I know, like, that of all the things that you've tried, and this new embodied approach, it seems to be making you the happiest and
Mhm.
the most settled and the most, like, even ready to teach in person again. And so I'm like really happy for you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think it's something that can take us out of the chaos because right now I've been writing about how we're getting stuck in the chaos. And when we start to talk about overwhelm, think about we don't even know uh, a minutest part of what's going on the planet. What we're
Mhm.
seeing is so minute on what's going on in the rest of the planet. And if you let your attention go everywhere, and I've watched my students do that over the years, it's like, well, we have to do work for this place on the planet, and we have to do work on this place. And all of a sudden, we're spreading our energies to so many different places. It's like, what are we doing? Are we having an effect on anything? And I think that's a real place of overwhelm for all of us when we start putting our attention on too many of the problems.
Mhm.
We get split and we get paralyzed because there actually is no way to fix them. There is
Mhm.
we're living in a situation right now that might be fixable at some point, but right at this moment is unfixable. And
Mhm.
so, to stay out of overwhelm, we have to pick where we want to put our energies right now because there's too much. There's too many places to put our energy right now.
Yes. And one of the things that I recently saw was, after I took myself out for this Friday night adventure, it's always great to see what comes up like immediately following a deep journey.
Mhm.
And so, sure enough, I wake up this morning and there's a semi bad review on my VRBO about ridiculous things. But I get tossed off my game. And I think that we were talking about reviews and book reviews and things that people can say about us that really have they're not our business, how you interpret something. And what it brought me back to was like the the fact that there was the plane crash with the helicopter. Ask yourself, where did you choose to focus your attention on? I felt really sad that all of these creative figure skaters, you know, after a really, and they were Russian and American, they had a common goal to figure skate, that we just lost all of these really talented people on our planet. That's where my sadness went,
Mhm.
to whose fault it was, what they did, what they didn't do, who's to blame. And that I took a moment of silence and sent a prayer to not only those skaters and their family, but their parents were with them. And how many other people were affected, that their other children who were at home who weren't with them now are parentless. And that to me was like, that's sad. And if I can't feel this, if I'm so into whatever the theory is about why this happened, I can't experience the sadness. And so my trauma just gets frozen and locked. instead of actually taking a minute to grieve.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying by I go into my heart with everything first, because it's taking the moment to figure out how I'm feeling instead of letting my mind try and interpret what just happened. Um, and honoring those who died, honoring those who are suffering from certain changes that are going on right now, being able to hold space. I can't hold space unless I'm in my heart. I can't. And so when I allow world events to trigger me too much so that I actually can't read my heart anymore, I'm not a shamanic teacher anymore. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I'm not doing my work anymore. I can't help anybody if I'm in that place. I have to stay in my heart. A shaman is a person who sees from their heart. And so I am getting better at seeing because I am only staying in my heart right now. It's a choice that I'm making for my own healing, and not just about getting out back out there in the world. I already am. I just finished a 1 year in-person program and teaching online currently. It's not about for me getting back out there again. It's being able for me to keep being able to stay in a particular strength that I know from what I've been through in 72 years of my life, the strength that I had as a kid, as a teenager, as an early adult, it was phenomenal. And I've realized that I'm letting the world take me away from a place that I've always depended on, my own resilience, my own strength. I had no support. That just happened to be my destiny. And so, where am I giving my power away now to, and not trusting that part of me that got me to the age of 72 through amazing amount of catastrophes and traumas that happened, and to find that place again. And where that place is again is in my heart.
Mm. That makes me think about that. For me, some of the ways that I've gotten back to myself over the years, well, it's always been through walking, and it's all, which I call wind walking. But like when my cat died, that taught me how to love. I went to Chile and did a horse trip through the mountain and walked up high, and it's exerted myself because I'm one who's so busy that when I take myself out and take myself for a walk, spirit probably can talk to me. There's probably a couple of times spirit can talk to me when I'm sleeping and when I'm walking. And the rest of the time I'm just, busy, busy, busy. And so, for me, that walking works. So at home, what works for you? The other thing that works really well is my wind whistles, because when you use the wind whistle and you exhale, you expel the air all the way till there's none. You're vacant inside, and that vacancy allows for me and other people that I've seen. I've worked with people with bipolar disorder and stuff, who that breathing with the wind whistle will bring them back into their bodies as well. So you need a trick.
Right. Yeah. 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 And then it becomes habit, if you keep working with it, on a regular basis. I was listening to a podcast that at some point I'd like to do a show with Renee on, because I felt that the information was so extraordinary. But one of the pieces of information, and this comes from Harvard Medical Schools, it takes 8 days to create a habit. And so, doing something positive that you're finding is, the show is on stress and overwhelm. doing something physical every single day, for no matter how small it is, for 8 days starts to create a pattern of you walking out of the state of overwhelm into a different state.
Hmm. It was funny because when you were telling me that before we got hit the record button, you were talking about how simple it is. One of the things she mentioned was talking to the checkout stand person and asking them how their day was. And some of these things are become so rote for me because when I was 30 and really struggling, I started to practice. I started changing those behaviors. I started to do things like just to be grateful for when I woke up and for the air that I breathed in that day, and, you know, for the simple things. And I'm sure over the time that has become a habit with me, is making sure I talk to the checkout person. And also a lot of times I'll talk to somebody behind me or in front of me in line and just say something simple like, and it's usually sincere, "Wow, that's a great color sweater you have on." And I saw somebody lift up the other day in the parking lot of Whole Foods when I'm there, like, "I really like those colors in your sweater today." And she just like smiled.
Right.
I'm like, "What does that cost?" It costs a few words out of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote this in one of my books. It happened a really long time ago, but it was such a striking. You had to be there to really see how striking it was. I used to go to the post office every single day, 7 days a week to get my mail. This is Sandra Ingerman. And God forbid somebody didn't get a response back from me the next day. I felt like the world would end. So anyway, I'm in the post office one Saturday, and nobody's there. The post office is closed down. I was there late, and there was a man, a Hispanic man, and he was reading something by the window, and I could really see he was really upset. And I walked in and I gave him the biggest smile. And then I took my pile of mail, because I always read my mail at the office to see what I had to do when I got home. And I stood right next to him. I mean, I gave him no space, like 2 inches. We were almost touching. And I just started talking to him about really simple things. I was doing it on purpose. How are you doing today? Wow, I got all this mail. And at the end, he said to me, he goes, "You actually have no idea what you did for me today. You have no idea what you did for me today. Thank you." And he was just really struggling, and I saw it, and it wasn't a big deal just to kind of act nutty and just start talking to a stranger, and it took him out of the place of suffering that he was in. And those are just little things that every one of us can do right now.
Yes. When you said you go to the mailbox every day, that's been me for the last few months, going to mail the Windwalker Wisdom Oracle out, because if I get an order, I feel like I got to get it out today.
Right.
But
Yeah.
one of the tricks that I use for getting myself out of those funks, because really I used to go dark, dark and deep, deep and dark. And one time I went to the movie theater, and it was the very first time I ever went to a movie alone. And I was so scared, because this is me. I was so self-centered. What are other people going to think about me not having any friends to go into the movie theater with?
Yeah, I think a lot of people live with that.
And it was Sister Act.
Mm.
And when I bought the ticket and I went in, and it turned out I knew people in the movie theater, but I laughed so hard. I don't even remember what I was laughing about now, because it was so many years ago. And then when I was walking out the door, one of those resounding booms that sometimes I get, it said like, "All right, so you could take the laughter and go on with your day, or if you want to pick up your misery at the ticket counter and then go forward, your choice."
Right.
And I thought like, yeah, no, I think we'll laugh for the rest of today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're always being presented with a choice. And that's one of the reasons I'm so focused on my heart, because I come from a family that catastrophized, and I catastrophized myself. And so, if I give my mind a few minutes to go somewhere, trust me, it's not the movie that anybody wants to see.
On Sister.
And so, if you just say, "What's my heart feeling right now?" It just stops all mental looping, the crazy mental racing thoughts, which, from a trauma point of view, I know we have a lot of therapists. Well, from a trauma point of view, the racing thoughts is just protecting you because your brain and body don't feel safe. And so the racing thoughts are just a protection. That's all they are. And so let's take off the protection and let's find out what our heart's feeling. And then when we're not protecting our heart and our body from what they're trying to say, that immediately throws us out of a place of overwhelm because they actually don't have that much to say. So
Really?
it's really simple things like, do you think you could take a walk for 5 minutes today? Do you think you
Mhm.
can drink a little bit? So there's nothing overwhelming if you talk to your heart, your body. If you to your mind, yeah, there's a lot that's gonna overwhelm you.
Right. Simple, keep it simple, stupid is the phrase that they use in AA. I have got a good ending story because sometimes we wonder if you guys are really paying attention out there and listening. We do rely upon donations to pay for this, and so feel free to donate. But the other day, and I didn't tell you this, the other day I get an email. Was advertising my friend's house up on Whidbey, and I get an email from somebody who says, "I follow you. I know your work." And it turns out she has been listening to our podcast for a long, long time. And she is renovating her house. She just moved to Whidbey Island and has to move for a couple months. And so right after our podcast, she said, "Oh my God, I can't find a place, blah, 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 blah." And her spirit guide said, "It's not that hard." And so she writes me this letter, tells me she knows, and I'm there like, "Well, it's my friend's house. She really wants somebody for 4 or 5 months." I said, "But I'm not there right now. Maybe you could, rent my house." And it like she's there like, then she tells me, "Well, I listened to you and Sandra, blah, blah, blah. And I got that message. It's not that hard. And then you just made it so easy."
Right.
So you never know. You
Yeah.
never know who's going to hear your message and the impact of the reach that you make. So smile at the checkout host. If you see somebody who needs a lift, carry their bags. It's the simple things that we can do right now to help each other out because it's really chaotic winds out there. And we all need to, as I'm going to say, we all need to walk each other.
That's right. We definitely do. And we can get through these coming times of overwhelm together, but the, those of us who are going to keep moving forward and following our hearts and souls and bodies, that's going to lead you to the best place of truth that you can find in this world of illusion,
Mm.
because we are living in a world of illusion. But at least if you listen to your body, your heart, and your soul, it will lead you on a good path through the the planet of illusion that we're living on right now. So we give thanks to everybody who likes us, subscribes to us, donates to us, tries to support us in some way. We put an amazing amount of resources into doing this show, and we really appreciate when people give back to us. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you a beautiful day or evening wherever you are.